Welcome to the Experimental Honesty Podcast. I'm Brian Curtis. Today I'm speaking with Richard Lang. Richard is a longtime teacher of a modern and direct method for seeing your true nature, your authentic self, who you really, really are, which is known as the Headless Way. Richard was a student of Douglas Harding, the philosophical writer, teacher, and author of many books, including The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth and On Having No Head, Zen and the Rediscovery of the Obvious. Richard has written several books about his experiences over 40 years of helping other people see who they really are and about how to live from this truth. Now, as you'll hear, this conversation was a lot of fun. My face hurt from smiling during and after our conversation. Richard and I discuss how he became interested in questions about his true nature, his meeting Douglas Harding, the importance of being honest and relying on our own experience, and testing things out for ourselves when investigating this fundamental question of who we really are. Richard will lead us through a few experiments to direct our attention at ourselves to see who we are from our own point of view, the implications of this insight for deepening our relationships, the role of development in losing and then rediscovering our true nature, Richard's recent efforts to help people communicate about their own experiences with others, properly locating where our thoughts are, theory of mind, and the resulting implications for our suffering and well-being, and how all of these discoveries lead to awe, wonder, and unlocking many new mysteries to explore. I hope you find this conversation as enjoyable as I did. And you can learn more about Richard and the Headless Way by visiting the website headless.org. I also highly recommend listening to Richard's incredibly useful series of guided experiments that he recorded for Sam Harris's Waking Up meditation app. If you're interested in that, you can start a free 7-day trial of Waking Up at the website wakingup.com, and you can find Richard's series from there titled The Headless Way. Okay, let's talk to Richard. I'm here with Richard Lang. Richard, thanks so much for taking the time to chat today.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Brian.
So I was talking to my father yesterday about this interview, and he's like, "So Richard's into meditation." I said, "Yes, it's about meditation." And then I found myself describing kind of you and what you do, Douglas Harding, and I realized this might be really hard from scratch because you've been doing this a long time. But I'm curious, for people who haven't maybe heard of you, who haven't heard of Douglas Harding, many of our listeners will be interested in honesty, in things like authenticity, maybe even discovering who they really are, their true nature. But for people who are unfamiliar with you, how do you generally describe what you do?
Well, I suppose it's different every time, but I would say that the heart of what I'm doing is the question, who am I? What am I? And the method, the Headless Way, is taking a fresh look, observing what you observe, seeing what you see, rather than what you've been told to see about yourself. I came across this more than 50 years ago. I was searching for my true identity. I might have put it like that at the time. And I went along to a workshop with Douglas Harding, who, if your listeners have not heard of him, he wrote a book called On Having No Head. He's dead now. And what he did was say, have a look for yourself at what it's like to be you. And perhaps the simplest way of putting it is to say to people, can you see your own face now? Now, that's not an intellectual question. That is just have a look and see if you can see your own face. Now, you might see it in the mirror, you might see it on a screen, but I'm talking about your first-person view of yourself right above your torso there. You can see a bit of your nose, you've got sensations. Well, I can tell you I don't see my head here. Instead, I would say I find no head. Wide open space, awareness, full of the whole world. Now that is a very different view of myself from, say, what you, Brian, are seeing on the screen. And that is because I would say you're, through the camera several feet away from me, so you see my appearance. But I'm at zero from myself and I see my reality, which is this clarity full of everything. Now, that is about as simple as you can get. And it will raise probably all kinds of questions for people, and it should do, because it is suggesting a very different view of yourself from the conventional one. Now, this view of yourself has a long history. You can find it in the mystics going back thousands of years, that who you really are, quote unquote, is not what you look like, that there is an incredible treasure at your center that is timeless, that is infinitely rich, infinitely creative, the same in everyone. And so it has a long history. And the Headless Way is saying, well, we don't have to believe any of that. If it's true, we can look for ourselves and see if it's true. And so in a short interview like this, we would not be able to go into all the implications or all the kind of explanations, if you like. And I would encourage your listeners to go to the website and read up Douglas Harding's books and all of that. But what we can do today is explore it a little bit and explore some of the implications. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect. And that's one of the aspects that I really appreciated when coming across Douglas Harding and coming across you, is the emphasis that's put on our own experience right now. So not relying on what other people tell us about ourselves, and not even relying on just all of the textbooks, something that we can find in a book, but just looking for ourselves and testing it out, right, in our own direct experience. And so, how would you feel about maybe walking us through some of these experiments to discover who we really are?
I will, a pleasure. And if your listeners have not done these experiments before, that's great. Something new. Obviously, you've got to just do them. It's no good just listening to us talk about them. And what they are about is directing your attention. And the most important part of that is directing your attention at yourself to see what you are from your own point of view. And let me just introduce this very quickly by giving the listeners a context. What you are depends on the range of the observer. What I mean is, if you're looking at me from 6 feet, you see Richard. But if you come up to me, you just see a head, then a patch of skin. And if you had the right instruments, you would then see a cell, then a molecule, an atom, a particle, almost nothing. Now, which of those am I? I'm all of those, depending on your range. And I need all of those to sit here and talk. But go away from me and you then see London and the planet and the star and the galaxy. And I need all of those. I need my atmosphere as much as I need my lungs to breathe. So in other words, when I ask myself, who am I? And I rope you in to help me out, if you're honest, you say, well, you are a whole range of things. And to say you're Richard is important, but it's just one of the layers of a many-leveled body that you have. And I say, oh, that's really interesting. That makes sense. And they say, well, and if we hold up a mirror at 6 feet, here's what you look like at 6 feet. All right, okay. But we hold a mirror up at 20,000 feet and you're London. The mirror is honest, you see. It tells you what you look like, where it is. But my question is, what am I at center, at zero, right where I am, who I really am, behind all the appearances? And thing is that the outside observer can't tell me, can they? Because they can't get here. They can get very close, and I'm almost nothing, but they can't get right here. So I said, well, how on earth am I going to find out what I am at center that all these great mystics say is such a treasure? And the outside observer comes so close, but then fails at the last hurdle. I want to know what I am at zero, you see. So I'm saying to the listener, if you want to know what you are at center, here is a little way of finding out. In other words, you're at center, have a look for yourself, Yeah. It's not really complicated. So what you do, and this is where the listener, I invite you to be like a child, direct your attention outwards first. And to help you do this, get your finger and point at something in front of you. Look down your finger and you see it's an object with a shape and a color and a size. All right, you can see that. That's what it looks like at this range. Now I want you to point a bit closer, say at your other hand, and notice you see an object there. You're just looking. You don't have to understand how it functions or anything. You're just looking. Now turn your finger around and point back at where others see your head, your face, the place you're looking out of. You at zero. What do you see there? Well, I'll tell you what I see. I don't see my head. I don't see anything. Just my finger. Where I'm pointing, where everyone else sees my head, I see just, well, it's a non-verbal experience, but if I was to put it in words, I'd say, wide open, boundless space full of my finger and the rest of the world. Ah, that's what I am at center, you see. No thing full of everything. Now, Brian, do you find the same where you are?
I find the exact same, yes.
Now, that is wonderful, isn't it? I mean, it makes sense, because I can see your Brian, I can see your head, but I am out here. And what we're investigating is what we are at center now. You see, there are lots of other experiments, but, any way in is a good way in. And if and I say, you can't get it wrong. I mean, you can't see your head. Instead, you see the world, I say. Now you might say, well, so what? I say, that's a very good question. There should be a lot of so whats, because it is a completely different way of seeing. I'm looking at Brian and Richard on the screen. That's the normal way. There we are, separate, head to head, you see. And who would question that? You see, well, I'm questioning it. And I'm noticing, you see, that from the outside, Richard and Brian are separate, and their voices are different, you see. But when I look where I am, I find no Richard, no face, and I look at Brian, and I've got Brian's face instead of Richard's, or I've got the two heads instead of any head here. And so when I look at someone else, I say, this is the so what, I have your face. See, I have your face instead of mine. I am you. I am space for you. And I am deeply convinced that you're in the same wonderful condition that you have Richard's face. You see, we're trading faces. And it's a very mysterious thing, but the space we're looking out of, because there's no name on it. I mean, Brian, does it have a name on it?
No.
Does it have a size?
There's nothing else I can compare it with. It does not have a size.
You see, and you're describing your experience. You're not remembering a text in a book or what someone else has said. You say, what are you looking at now? Well, you don't have to ask anyone else. You look, you see. But when we communicate about it, which is the essence of this conversation, we're talking about our true nature, we find that, my goodness, it sounds like it's exactly the same in you as it is in me. You see.
Yes.
Now that in the world we live in, where it's based on I am me and you are you, to discover the place where I am you and you are me, that, leaders of the free world, leaders of the unfree world, wake up to who you really are. That's what I say.
The implications for this in relationships is really, really interesting to me. And I find this even yesterday with, we have 4 children. And so our youngest is about 1.5 years. and just being on the floor with her. And when this realization happens, I mean, you can point, you can look at this space, but experiencing it, and she comes up to me, I mean, I have just her and there is nothing else. And so I'm curious about your experience, maybe before you were pointed this way, before you met Douglas, and since then, how this has impacted your relationships and the implications for, you mentioned leaders of the free world, everybody, the implications here for just how we relate to one another, and yeah, your own experience with that, if you could share a little bit about that.
Well, I came across this when I was young. I was 17. I mean, I was already deeply conditioned, like we are when we, teenagers, that I was what I looked like and I was separate. I was self-conscious, you see. But I mean, you have to admit that even though you are deeply convinced you've behind a face, you've never seen it right there at your center. It's always in the mirror and in your imagination. But I was deeply, I mean, like us all, deeply identified with Richard and with my appearance. And when this was pointed out to me when I was 17, well, I continued to be a messed up teenager, and I continued to be a messed up adult and still am, But I think that I think, first of all, I thought, yeah, well, that's true. That's just true. Whether it does me any good or not, it's just true. Of course, as soon as you start to explore it, and I got to know Douglas Harding well, so I talked a lot with him, read his books, assisted him with workshops. I've made it my life. So I have thought a lot about it. The space itself hasn't changed a bit because it's nothing, but what it means to you unfolds and unfolds and continues to unfold. And I think that because it is such a different way of seeing yourself from the conventional view, there's a lot to work out and you'll never get to the end of it. But we have, in terms of relationships, I think every so often it just hits you again, oh my God, like you and your child, there's no separation. There's no separation. I am you, I am the world. Now, it's a great mystery because I don't know what you're thinking and feeling. Somehow we're two and we're one. So I accept that. And I think I had to work this out. You grow up and think you're separate, and then you wake up to who you are and you realize you're one. But then you have to somehow, for me, take on board the fact that you still feel separate.
Yeah.
So it's not one or the other, it's both. And a nice way of putting it is that the as is and the as if. The as is I am one, there is no other consciousness, everything is in me, but I act as if there are many. And that is icing on the cake. That's not a mistake. And so I think one of the things that I have come to more deeply, not only accept grudgingly, but actually celebrate, is the fact that the one is also many, and that I do feel separate from you. And I do believe you're separate from me and you're real over there, and yet you're not, and it's a paradox that is lived and not kind of, neutralized. But the other thing that I would say, and I mean, for your listener, there's lots of experiments on the website, lots to explore. So have an open mind and go along for the ride here, and test it out. But when you see that you've no head, when I see I've no head, this is not a wow. It's not a wow experience. It's just an observation. It's like looking at anything. What color is that? Oh, it's blue. But that doesn't make me feel better. Yeah, but I mean, it's still blue, isn't it? It's true. It's blue. Yeah. Well, have you, what, do you see your own head? No. Do you see the world instead? Yes. Well, it doesn't make me feel better. Well, hang on a minute. Give it a chance for a start. But first of all, is it true? Now, this is fantastic, I would say, because the the fact that it is neutral and it doesn't make you feel wow because it means it's available when you don't feel wow. It is just true. And this comes to be of immense value, that you can be aware of your true nature when you're depressed or when you've just lost someone or things not going your way, occasionally. It's just true. You're looking out of a single eye, out of a boundless space. You are that. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I'm rambling on here a bit, but when I look at this space, I don't see Richard's face here, I see this space. In one sense, it's just neutral, but in another sense, it is welcoming the world. It says yes to the world. Because it's no thing, there's nothing here to refuse anything. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree, yes.
Right. So you could say that in a certain sense, it is profoundly positive. It says yes to the world. It doesn't, say, well, I say yes to this bit, no to that. It just says yes. And we have regular Zoom meetings because, like here, it's just a pleasure to share, you see, and get in our Zoom meetings, people share their different responses to this neutral experience. And for a while now, at the end of the meetings, which are an hour long, they're just free, and anyone really interested is welcome to drop in. At the end, we just sit quietly. There might be 30 people. And I would say we all know what we're doing. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I'm just being aware that I'm space for you now, or space without words. But recently, we've actually added to that by placing our hands on our hearts. Yeah, like now that, you see, combined with seeing who you are, what it means to me is I am space for you. You're in me. You're in my heart. And when I see you do, I say, it's the same for you. You've got everyone in your heart. Doesn't mean to say you like everyone, right? It's just that they are in you. Now that is profound. And this is similar to Namaste, but it's a Western thing. It's a heart thing, isn't it? They're all heart things, but this is one of the implications, see, of this radical honesty about who you are. Unlike Pontius Pilate, you cannot wash your hands of anyone. You might not like them. You might need to say no to them, but you're saying no to someone who's within you. So now that is, that is very deep. And you see the living of this, the realization is there it is. It's free and available always. The living of this goes deeper and deeper and,
So this notion, and the way Douglas often put it, when I heard him give lectures, is we're busted wide open for people. There's no barrier here. And as you wrote, in your great book that I enjoyed reading recently, Seeing Who You Really Are, this is the face game that we can play, assuming that we are face to face with people, we're confronting people. But that this being space for somebody else is such a relief. And we don't have to keep basically pretending when we wake up to this, that in our actual honest experience, when we drop, like you said, we're kind of like a child again. And right now it's just, I'm going on my experience on this side. There is nothing separating. It's in this conversation, we are completely open for each other. Right.
Yes, two voices in one consciousness, right?
That's right.
Yes, the one talking to itself. Well, it just briefly, it might be helpful just to put this in the context of our personal development and the 4 stages. Very simple. The first stage is you're a baby, child, adult, seer. Baby's headless in my jargon, wide open, like you were saying with your child there, just wide open. You see that, you're space for the world. You've not yet got any idea really, or developed idea of what you look like, you're just space for the world. So that's stage 1. From that day on, parents and others around you start telling you what you look like, reflecting it back to you, your face. They point in the mirror. They say, that's what you are at center. in other words, You say, what are you talking about? There's nothing here. That's a tiny little face over there, and what you see is there, not here.
Yeah.
If your baby says this, you can sign her up for MIT tomorrow.
She did not say that. No.
And I find it really interesting. So from day one, you are getting reflected back that you're a baby, and it's 24/7, and it's through language and nonverbal gestures and all of that, and the mirror. And by the time you're an infant, you're getting a good idea of it. But there's no choice about it, because all of society is telling you you are the one that you cannot see. You are the one you cannot see. And you better get used to it, because we're not going to let you off the hook. We are going to talk to you 24/7 as if you're Richard. I'm talking to me. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? But I'm not. Yeah, we're just not going to let that happen, right? And you turn to your little infant friend and you say, this thing about having to imagine you're behind a face and imagine you're in a body and you are what you look like. I just can't do it, you say to your friend. You say, I do it for about a second and I forget and I'm just space with the world again. And your friend said, I know, I'll never be able to do it. It's just too hard. I mean, how do you keep that going 24/7? Well, by the time you're a teenager, you're doing it. You look in the mirror, that's you. Someone says Richard or Brian, you turn automatically. You're concerned about what you look like. You're not concerned about your headless space. You're denying that. You're overlooking it. If someone says they're headless, you'd laugh at them, you see. So the baby is headless without knowing anything else. The child is learning to put your head on, your face on, playing the face game, as you said, acting as if you're behind a face. That's the game. The adult is no longer a game, it's reality, you think. I am behind my face. I'm separate from you. I'm face to face with you. I move through the still world. I'm not still and the world moves through me. So the third stage, if you think about it, is because it's constant 24/7 feedback, you just, what option have you but to take that on board? But you give as good as you get. You get that coming to you, but you learn to give it back. And I say, you're Brian, you see. And you go, yeah, I am, right? You see. So that's the third stage. And society tells you that basically growing up is finding out which one you are, right? And then making the best of it. And that's it. I mean, you don't have a choice. You say, no, can I have a transfer, please? I'd like to be Brian. I'm sorry. No, you see. So then you die. And we just make the best of who we think we are, see. But someone comes along before you die, hopefully, and says, oh, by the way, have you had a look for yourself? And that's what happened to me. And I looked and I thought, oh my God, I don't have a face here. I'm not behind a face. I'm looking at a wide open space here. I'm not in the world is in me. Whoa, that's confusing. Well, that can't be true. That can't be true because society has been telling me 24/7 the opposite, you see. So you have to keep testing it. You have to, don't believe me, test it because, I could be wrong. Now, if you do say, okay, well, this seems true, it fits with what the mystics say, it fits with what science says, that your appearance changes with range, you see, all of this. So, okay, how do I keep this going? This is one question people ask. All right, I can do it for about a second, then I forget. Now, you turn to your friend and you say, how on earth do you keep this going? I say, I don't know. I'm like you. I can notice my headlessness for about a second and then the rest of the day it's gone. Well, one very effective way of taking this on is to hang out with others because it's the same mechanism. If you've got, like now, you see, I'm talking to you. I don't have to keep explaining what I'm talking about. You've got it, right? Mm-hmm. And our conversation is affirming this, right?
Yes.
and enjoying it, the mystery of it. Well, I mean, here are we during this conversation. Do we have to keep reminding ourselves that we're headless? I mean, it's like reminding yourself the sky is there. It's just there. And I think that, if you want the easy person's route to, keeping it going, hang out with others. So, I mean, for example, one of the questions people say is, how do you stabilize this, Richard?
Mm-hmm.
How do you stabilize it? Well, I say, well, how did you stabilize your personal identity? Because you hadn't got it stabilized. Your child hasn't got it stabilized yet. No, you see.
No.
So it's the same mechanism. Well, I mean, let others do the work, really. So how do you stabilize it? Hang out with others who are enjoying it, Now, or read about it, that's being in a community where it is understood. I mean, you don't have to. It's a personal choice. If you don't want to join the party, be like that.
And that, you mentioned the mystics, right? And that was one thing that was so striking to me when I started doing more reading of you and of Douglas was I kind of started with having, the pointing exercise and going through the other experiments and instantly got it. And I think I even started laughing the first time it happened because I realized I have a memory when I had to be like 8 years old and I was in my backyard and looking at the sky. And that's what came to mind is, oh, that's the last time I think I experienced consciously like this kind of openness. And so, and I was 30, I don't know, 33, 34 when this was happening. So that's a long time. But then to go back through your writings and Douglas's writings and to read the mystics and their account of just this space and that almost this just being the hidden jewel and what so much of, either spirituality or religious practice to get to this point that, like you said, is how do we stabilize something that once you see it, it's so interesting that we overlook it. And I don't know, that to me was just so striking. And when I go back and read their quotes, Jesus, Rumi, the Buddha, just everybody pointing to this space. And it had just never been clearly, literally pointed out to me before.
Well, that is a breakthrough of the Headless Way. It points directly at it. It gives you the experience. You can talk about this till you're blue in the face, and it doesn't really get you anywhere. But as soon as you see it, you are the authority, and you can read the scriptures to find out if you've got it right, or you can read the scriptures to see if they've got it right.
Yeah.
And you're in a position to make that judgment on them. And the Buddha and Jesus and whoever were just ordinary people, I mean, and they are so long ago, some of them, that what they said, who knows if what they said is what you're reading. There's so many possible chances for mistakes there. But so don't base your spiritual endeavors on hearsay like that. You could waste a lot of time. Base it on your actual experience. But you see, the thing about, I find that going around sharing this, talking about it, doing workshops, is great for me because I get to talk about it, and that keeps it on the front burner for me, But also, I get to kind of be part of a conversation. And one of the things that I've been doing recently, and I'll do more and more of in workshops, is to facilitate people to talk about this. What I mean is, instead of just saying this and everyone sitting there receiving, which, is one thing, if you want people to really grow, they need to participate. the more you participate, the more, this is what I find, the more you use your voice, the more you come out about the truth, the more you grow. And I did a workshop at a music festival on Friday, a couple of days ago. It was just brilliant. I mean, mainly the people were 25 or 30. I had to remind, because I can't see myself. I had to keep reminding myself I was twice as old as them.
That's right. Just avoid the mirrors and you'll fit in.
Yeah, that's right. But they were all open to it. Many of them had already done the experiments. So I mean, it's in the air. But what you do is you say, okay, we've all got it now. You can't see it. I mean, we've all got it. But if something is true, it's one thing to know it, but another to come out about it, to stand up for it. Now, when you grow up and you use your voice and you nail your flag to the post, don't you? I am Richard. Yes, I am. What? Yes, I am. Speak up. Say it, because once you say something, you can't really go back on it. You are, and because that feedback, because people hear you, right? The feedback is how you learn about yourself and others. As we said, to begin with, you've no idea, and it's through others you learn you're a person. And through that exchange, when you then wake up to who you really are and you start communicating about it, this is a powerful thing. I mean, I know it's powerful because I do it all the time. And you discover things. So in workshops, I will say, okay, here's a little exercise we're going to do. I am going to say to you, so I'll do it with you, Brian. I'm going to say to you, I am space for you. See. Now, I'm telling you, this is not like, oh, and by the way, there's macaroni for dinner. This is like incredible. Yeah? Right? Yeah, it is, you see. I am space. I'm telling you an incredible thing, you see, and I'm taking it seriously, you see. And so in this conversation, I'm going to say, so are you space for me?
Yes, Richard, I am right now, I am space for you.
Right. Now, we are having a conversation about something amazing. See. Now, you are in me. Am I in you?
Yes.
Are both our voices in one consciousness?
From my experience, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
From your experience, from mine too. Now, that is just an amazing thing, isn't it? Now, you've got to say, I mean, this, you see, there's something about this that is just, when you communicate about it, you finally kind of, you're really, I don't know, it's very freeing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. My face kind of hurts from smiling this whole time, yeah.
Yes, that's right. We offer remedies afterwards for too much smiling. Yes. One of the things that you could say about this in the face game. The face game, as we've already talked about, is when you grow up, you learn to imagine you're behind a face and act as if you're behind a face. So if you were to articulate that, I would be saying to you, Brian, I say, I'm behind a face here. I'm separate from you. I'm about, on the screen 3 feet from you or whatever it is, 10 feet. Mm-hmm. And you're in a little box there and I'm in a little box here and we're separate. Right? So in other words, I'm basic, although I like you, all of that, basically, I'm a thing here and you just can't come in. And you're a thing there and no one can go in. You might be very welcoming in your behavior, but we're head to head and separate, all right? Mm-hmm. So in normal conversation, that's where you're coming from. You're underlying, and people are open because really they're not in their heads, but that is it's kind of keep out. It's the message is keep out, I've got one, thanks. Now, when you see who you are, you understand that. It's not now, as I've said, I don't know what you're thinking, you're not going to give me a wallet just because I am you, all of that. We respect the difference. We're still playing the face game in a way. We're acknowledging that reality, that perspective. But now we are also articulating the truth that I have your face here and you don't have it there, you see. It's my face, in a way, you could say. I mean, it's the opposite, you see. So I'm now saying, actually, I can't keep you out. You're in. How did you get in? So this you can see how profoundly important it is in terms of relationships.
Yeah.
And it's not denying the separateness. It's not suddenly going, yeah, but I still feel separate. I can't be doing it right. No, you're doing it right. You've got both. But now we bring on to the front burner this other side, this reality of who we all really are, and yes, hugely important, hugely important.
Yeah. You mentioned this notion of being kind of contained, of being bottled up in this little container versus being, wide open space. And you've written about, so there's the head game, being face to face, and when we see this face to no face, face to space, right? There's also, you comment on the mind game, right? We're imagining things like our thoughts, things like our emotions, our private experiences. These are all boxed up as well in this container. We identify with this, and you point out there's something to say about imagining that's the case. It's just me in here with things like depression, right? Things like loneliness, feeling disconnected, angry. And, with myself, a clinical psychologist, doing a lot of psychotherapy. I was interested when you talked with Sam Harris that I learned that part of your background and your experience being a therapist as well. And so much of this, when I work with folks and in my own experience with anxiety, right? Constant planning, preparation, trying to control the implications of not just locating, and being able to say we're not face to face, head to head with people, confrontational, but that this also applies to our thoughts, right? Our emotions. And so can you talk a little bit about how does one go about locating where our thoughts are? And when we think about suffering, these negative emotional states, what are the kind of implications there for properly locating where our thoughts are?
Yes, I think that, again, seeing who you really are, that your space for the world brings up so many questions and challenges so many aspects of how we see ourselves, including that I'm in a head here and my thoughts are in this little box separate from yours and going whizzing around and all of that. I think that, you see, obviously, well, I say it's obvious. When I see I've no head, then I say, well, where are my thoughts? Well, I don't know, but they're not contained. They're sort of out there with the trees, and so are my feelings. So my mind is at large, I would say. But we can look into that. But let me just put it in developmental terms again. When you're an infant, they do a test. What's it called? Something to do with theory of mind. That when you're an infant, you obviously have feelings and thoughts and all that going on, but it's just kind of there along with everything else, your thoughts and feelings. And the test they do is that, and you've no real awareness of yet of yourself as a separate thing in which the thoughts are happening, and of others that are separate in which they've got thoughts happening. You haven't worked that out. That's a developmental thing. So say you're, I don't know, a year old or a year and a half, I don't know. I'm not good on the ages now. And they open a box and put crayons in it and close it and say, "What you know what's in the box? Yeah, crayons." And someone else comes in the room and say, "Do they know what's in the box?" The kind of typical answer is, yes, of course they do. There are crayons in the box. They're not stupid. I mean, I'm rather
Yeah.
exaggerating here what a child would say, but in other words, it's just knowledge. It's just out there. The crayons are in the box. Now, 6 months later, you do a similar test, and the person comes in and you say, no, they don't know what's in the box. That's because you've now understood that your thoughts are in your head. If I put it in very simple terms, until then, you've no head, so your thoughts are not contained. But they teach you that your thoughts are in your head. You imagine your head, your thoughts, think of a image of a mountain now. Well, that's in your head, you see, and no one else can see it. You see, and now when you look at others, you can see their heads. So you imagine they must have thoughts in their heads that you can't see. And this is development of the theory of mind, that the idea that your mind is in your head and that other heads contain minds, you see. Well, that is absolutely vital. That's learning that other people are thinking, feeling, that when they leave the room, they still exist. They have a life apart from, they're conscious, you see. But you hadn't worked that out when you were, very small. So this is called theory of mind. Mm-hmm. And by the time you're an adult, you're absolutely sure that your thoughts are in your head. No one else can see them. And that others have thoughts and you can't see them. All right, got that, you see. Now, obviously, one of the... then when you see that you've no head, if I jump fast forward, then you say, oh, well, where are my thoughts? You see, well, imagine a mountain. Well, it's out there with the real mountain. It's in front of you. It's in awareness. Where's the dividing line between the thought of the tree and the tree? I can't find a dividing line. It's all one continuum. And I'm just no mind. So, I mean, if we close our eyes, a listener, just close your eyes for a moment. See, now what are you? How big are you? Not from memory. I can't say how big I am. See? How wide are you? See? Or how, yes. If you think now of a number, where does that number come from? Does it come out of your brain or just out of space, out of no mind here? Or you think of a city, name of a city. Where is that occurring? Is it occurring in your head or just along with the darkness and the sounds in this great space? It sort of populates the space just like the sounds do. The thoughts come and go and they're not contained. See? Now you open your eyes. So there's a little experiment. The listener can do more of these. Now, this seems to be in direct contradiction to what you've been taught. I'm saying now my mind is at large, and everyone's saying, no, it's not, it's in your head. Well, let's have both. Let's have both. So for the purposes of communication, I accept. I've got thoughts you can't see and all of that. We're separate. But now, secretly, I'm aware that I'm not defined by all of that. I'm not in a box. Now, does that make a difference to if you're feeling depressed or lonely? Well, of course, try it out. You've got to do it. But I say profoundly it makes a difference to discover that you're not contained, that, you can feel lonely, but at the same time you're noticing that everyone is within you. Now, that is a good antidote. I think also that, you see, when you see who you are, I would say you discover that as who you really are, you are very well. Your true nature is well. It is whole. Now, when you recognize that there's a part of yourself that is completely whole and well, that is encouraging and supportive. And it doesn't mean you won't feel lonely or depressed. I do, but you now have, that's not the only story.
Yeah. There's this other space is what's coming to mind, but to be able to realize we feel sad or we feel happy, the same way to notice my voice is, oh, that's coming out of silence, right? And to notice a mood like depression, well, it's coming out of a background of not depression, right? That this, and it does have, in my own experience, when I can be aware of that, it has this positive kind of, you mentioned whole, but it's very hard to put into words, the experience. But it's definitely not, it's not depressed. And importantly for me in my life, with what we could call generalized anxiety, not a fear of dogs or heights, but it's just, that the mind, the thinking, this space is not thinking. This space is not stressed. This space is, it's just open. It's not those things.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, it is. Constantly, consistently wonderful.
Yes. I mean, what a resource. What a resource. And the fact that you can't quite explain it and pin it down doesn't matter, because I know exactly what you're talking about. So, we're both fumbling with our words here, and that's okay, because it can't be pinned down. But yes, the proof is in the pudding, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is, you never quite get used to it, do you?
No.
No. I know. It's it goes deeper and deeper. And, you think you've sort of cracked it and realized the deep depth of it. And that realization goes. And then out of the great void comes something else that surprises you. It's just endlessly creative. And you see, I think this is just, it's brilliant. It's brilliant to share, isn't it? Because,
Yeah.
your experience is different from mine, and I'm learning from you, and you're learning from me, and we're learning as we go along,
Yeah.
I did this festival on Friday, and this couple came up to me afterwards. The woman had been willing to participate in the communication exercise. Actually, it was very interesting, because you say this is neutral, and she said, I am space for you. And you could see she said, I feel emotional. Because you're not just saying nice weather. You're saying something incredibly deep that one rarely says in public, but it's becoming, here we are talking about it. Anyway, they came up to me afterwards, her and her boyfriend, and I said, yeah, you've got each other's faces. Incredible, incredible, how brilliant is that to know in a relationship, you see? And but he was a bit, he hadn't said anything, but that we were talking, and I was saying how, important it is when you have the chance just to say that, to say it out loud to someone else, not just to the ether. And there was a pause, and the guy said, and I'm imagining it's the first time he'd ever said it in his life. He said, towards his girlfriend, I am you. And I thought, whoa, a bit like, taking a risk, but fantastic.
It's so intimate, right?
Yeah.
When I heard that, it was how, like, how else could you even express that you love somebody, that I am you, you are me. That level of connection, we're not there. There's no separation there.
No.
Right.
No. And when I was about 18 or 19, I was at university, and my brother was at university, a different university. And we'd both gone to the same workshop when we were 17 and both seen our true nature. And we used to, in those days, you didn't have mobiles or anything like that. In order to talk to each other, I had to go to the coin telephone on the staircase at university, and he had to go to one at his university, and I had to ring that number at the time when he knew I was going to ring. I mean, God.
Yeah.
And we did this, you see, and we were talking, and suddenly we both became aware that both voices were in one consciousness. And it was one of those wow moments. And we were both aware of it. So both our voices were like, there's just one consciousness here. I know. Yeah, there is. I mean, wow. Like there is now, you see.
Yeah.
But it was a powerful experience. It blew my socks off, for both of us, you see. It's infectious.
Yeah.
I don't know how you explain it, you see. Now, after that, that calmed down, and it's still true. There are many voices in one consciousness, but it doesn't have to be a big wow,
Yeah.
But you have to say that it opens the door, as you say, to incredible intimacy and to wonder, awe, mystery. People say, what difference has it made in your life, Richard? Has it made you a better person? Well, I think I'm worse, actually. But, I don't know how you, sort of measure that anyway. But what it has done, first of all, it has, I've made many, many really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I go around making friends. I consider you a friend, not a student. How ridiculous. How ridiculous. But the other thing is that it has been a key that has opened the door to mysteries. And one of those was, many voices in one consciousness. What on earth are you talking about? Here's the key, open the door,
Mm-hmm.
Or, we're talking from the same consciousness now. Whoa, what are you talking about? Here's the key, you see. You're still and the world moves through you, Well, there are mysteries upon mysteries, which you can't sort of dial a number and get. You've got to relax back into zero and see what you're given.
Yeah, this has been one of the biggest resets on on my confidence that I understand anything. I mean, I thought I had so much, quote unquote knowledge, and there's something to say about that. You read, you investigate, you go to school, you get educated, and then learning about this, and you can talk about no mind, you can talk about beginner's mind like they talk about, but it really has just, I look up at the sky at night and it's just mystery after mystery, and it's unfolded over time from what do I do with this to why would I want anything else in my life? I feel it is childhood again, and it's in this very moment, Richard, in conversation with you. I have no idea what's going to happen next, right? What are we going to say? What is going to happen? And that is incredible, and it's moment after moment creative and wondrous, and it's just beautiful.
I know. Well, I understand. And it is workable. One can, function. One can operate. One isn't left sort of lying on the ground waiting for an ambulance. It's it's very practical. Because you're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. You're
Mm-hmm.
not denying all you've learned as you've grown up. You're adding. You're adding to it. You're reconnecting with what's always been there without having to deny your precious individuality and other people's precious individuality. You see, but yeah, yeah. everything is within you. Literally, everything is within this one undivided consciousness. Now, and the listener, you have full access. You've been granted full access. You see, I think one of the things when you're sharing seeing, in my job, I think I took a leaf out of Douglas Harding's book. I saw that he went around communicating about it all the time. So people used to associate him with headlessness, which was brilliant for him, right?
Yeah, that's
anyone
right.
who met him reminded him.
Yes.
And I thought, I'd rather like that. So I've kind of put, edged into that position that, people associate me with headlessness, which is great for me, you see. Now, I take liberties with it, and look, what I mean is that I, how can I put it? When people, like now, you see, in a way, I'm saying it's absolutely all right to be wide open. I'm saying it to me. It's absolutely all right to have your face now. You see, to welcome you in the great void here. To be you, to talk about it, to celebrate it, and it's a kind of I'm going to give you full permission, Brian, to be God. To I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm rambling on. Yeah.
No. And that brings up the difficulty, and it's really interesting that you've started to, if not encourage, kind of invite people to start talking about this experience, right? Not just to have it. And when you said that, like, it's okay, to be God, that's something that Douglas talked about, something that you wrote about, is this can be really scary to talk about with people. And I think how you go about doing that can be really important, right? Because like you said, if you say I'm headless, people will either laugh or they'll take a step back from you in the street. The world being within us, right? There's no separation. And especially when you mentioned, the implications here of maybe being God, of being creative, of just, this is what all the mystics seem to be pointing to. What's your experience like when you talk to people about that? And if this isn't their job, right? I'm thinking about listeners now, and if they've had this experience, or if they go and do more experiments and they want to share this, do you have thoughts on what would be a useful way to kind of start doing this? Yeah.
Yes. Seeing who you are is for being aware of always, talking about sometimes, insisting on never. The main way to share it is to be it. That's the most important thing. If I know that you come from that, and you're already, you're communicating it. It's very mysterious. You can't really explain it. So I would say to people, I find I don't go around buttonholing people. I speak a lot about it because I'm invited. And if I am talking with someone and I sense that they are not interested, I back off. Yeah, I have no reason. I mean, why would I want to impose? It's just ridiculous. But you have to work that out. I used to be evangelical about it. I'm still evangelical, but I sense as well as I can if someone's interested or not. And if they're not, there's no point. There's no point. So I would say, don't. I'm not in encouraging people to talk about it with their friends if their friends are not interested. It's just counterproductive. Be it. Like with your daughter, You just be it. That's the brilliant thing. And then if people ask, you can respond for as long as they're interested, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as their interest fades, you talk about something else, I suppose. But the main thing is to be it. But I would, having said that, encourage people to communicate about it in places that are appropriate. And because you learn through communicating, you learn through action, you learn through relationship, And when you're with someone and you're seeing this and not talking about it, you're communicating about it. It's where you're coming from, right? I mean, that's all you have to do, really. But when you start to, that you find out what it means to you if you start to communicate about it. They say if you want to find out what you're thinking, write it down. You'll soon discover things, or talk, speak.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You see, I mean, this is, it's a fantastic thing to share because I know that you are living from it and that it is endlessly resourceful for you. Now, does that mean that you don't have problems? No, but you have a place where you are operating from. You're aware of the place you're operating from is problem-free. Now, it kind of places the problem. Life is full of problems. Life is one damned blessing after another.
Well, I can't fail to mention you mentioned something there about the impact this has had on your life, and for you it might have been a throwaway line, but that you feel like doing this and being sharing this with other people, that you feel almost worse. That is that something I heard? Was that just you being characteristically hard on yourself, or have you found that this actually has you've noticed some maybe negative impact in your life?
Well, first of all, you don't have another life running parallel that you can compare. What would I have been like without seeing who I was? You can't do that. I can see ways in which it's affected me, I suppose, but I'm just saying that I remain complex and at the human level, I remain all of that. And I am very clear that I don't make any claims to somehow sorting myself out. The human experience is extremely complicated and mysterious and full of opposites. Now, of course there are changes. But I suppose am I interested in that? I'm interested in what I'm doing and developing what I'm doing. Am I, I get on in spite of Richard, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm worse than anyone else or better than anyone else. I'm just a person. But all of that is not central. That all my personality is not central. It's out there somewhere in the world and in my interactions, but it's not central. So I'm free of it. So, for example, someone might say, so do you trust who you really are? Is that, it's always there. You say it's reliable. It's reliable because it's always there. Do you trust it? Well, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And any feeling you have in the world, even the deepest, comes and goes and is only known in contrast to its opposite. So, my life, I do believe I am trusting it at an ever deeper level. But that goes along with lack of trust and doubt, and then I drop back down into trusting again. You see what I mean? That
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea that, oh, so and so now, they trust who they are. They do? What, all the time? 100%. What's that like? I just can't imagine it. But the way that we learn is through challenges. And if you no longer have any challenges, you stop learning. You're on a plateau. Life keeps bringing new challenges. And if you don't have a moment of, oh God, well, I do. And that means then that you have to apply the resource again. You haven't got it off pat. It's not automatic, like never again feel anxious. There you are, anxiety again. Okay. So that means now I have to return to the source, let go, and trust, you see. Now that is a deeper level of trusting than if you just, oh yeah, no, I always trust, yeah. I don't get that one, but
Yeah. And I think that for me is my experience too of just having both, right? There's you, there's your experience, there's regret, there's things, behaviors you'll do, conversations you might regret, but being able to have that, but that for me, that's not my story. And it's definitely not my story anymore, that I am this next thought, that I'm only as good as this next emotion or interaction. It's you have that, but now there's all of this, almost like a door just opened. And so having, I don't know, having both of those, I haven't figured any of this, and I don't think I ever will, and I don't even know if I want to. It's that mystery and constant discovery, but there's definitely having both of these, and
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, when Douglas Harding first saw this in 1943, I mean, it didn't come out of the blue. He'd been working on this stuff for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he saw he was headless. Now, what he did after that, for the next 10 years, he wrote a book, researched 10 years, almost, full time, really. He gave up his work and all of that. And that was The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth. It's just the best book in the world. I mean, not for everyone, not a popular book. But in other words, he spent a lot of time thinking it through, working out how it made sense scientifically, its deep implications to do with evil and free will and all of those things. And at the end of that big book, he says, basically, if this was just my attempt, and it's so easy to think but you don't. And in another book, he says, all I can do is bite the back of my hand. All I can do is just like, oh my God, what is this? Who am I? Now there's a huge amount to explore and make sense of, and it's just so rich and interesting. This is a key that opens many doors. It makes sense of, developmental psychology, of science. It really does. Douglas Harding explored a lot of that. At the same time, when it just comes back to the simplicity and says, okay, what now? Yeah.
Being able more and more, I've found not only a comfort with, but almost an enjoyment of being able to say, I don't know. And noticing the urge when somebody asks me a question to just answer it like I do know. But now just being open to the discovery of, and it's an honesty in the moment of what our actual experience is. And for me, it's this growing comfort with being okay with not having all of the answers, but a curiosity and an eagerness to kind of continue the conversation. But yeah, this has raised so many more questions than I ever had before. But I'm enjoying every moment of it. Yeah.
Well, yes, it's not that now you know and there's nothing else to do. It's like now you know, but you don't know, and there is life bubbling up. I mean, this is a big yes to life. It's not a no. This is not a negative thing. This is not a kind of end of the story. This is waking up in the middle of a story and going for it, saying yes to life. Yeah. No, I mean, it's great to meet you, Brian, and to recognize a kindred soul, as it were. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in other words, someone who is aware of this and of valuing it and exploring it in your own way. You know, and you've got your unique voice, and uh, I know how thrilling this is. I know how astonishing it is. I know how intimate it makes one's experience of life. You know, relationships, but trees and sky and stars, everything that is within you, and you'll never get used to it. And you know that. And, uh, you know, there's a deep gratitude somewhere. I don't know to whom, you know, it to itself. And so, this is what, you know, this comes out of the great mystery, this conversation now, this celebration of the mystery, this celebration of, of itself. You know, it's got itself together to become Brian and Richard and talk about itself. I mean, how weird and wonderful is that? And yeah, I mean, the good thing is too is that you know that I mean, this podcast, this goes out, it reaches people. It is the one talking, you know, found a way to spread the message really and say, look, be aware of the place you're looking out of now. You're looking out of two eyes or one single eye. When you walk, when you drive, are you moving or is the scenery moving through you? When you're with others, are you face to face or face to no face? So Headless Way is offering this direct perception, awareness of your true nature, and then saying, take it and fly with it.
So for the many who are listening, if they want to, continue this experience, right, to continue this conversation, and with you and people who are also interested in this and who value it, um, how can listeners find out more about you, your work, if there's any other resources or things that you feel would be useful? um, yeah.
Well, headless.org is our website, and through there you can get in touch with me through the contacts there. We've got a YouTube channel, Head Exchange. We've got podcasts, and we have 6 or 7 free Zoom meetings every week, and they are for anyone who has done the experiments, who's interested in this, and you can make friends there. And to find out about that, you email me, and I'll send you the information. So it's all there, really. You know, you're welcome. You're welcome to join us. So yes.
Is there anything we haven't touched on? I know, in the limited time we have, anything that you feel is important, or that we haven't touched on, that you'd like to um,
Well, it presumably will bring up lots of questions,
mhm.
and that, you know, objections and all of that. And I say, well, that is to be expected. We had a limited time here to explore things, to do experiments, but you can find out about the other experiments on the YouTube channel or the website. There's lots to explore in Douglas Harding's books. So expect questions, expect objections. We couldn't cover, everything, but if you feel interested, your interest is sparked, then follow it through. It is walking into a huge palace. I don't know. Well, I mean, thank you, Brian. I didn't know you from Adam or anyone, and it's a delight to share the space, isn't it? And
Yeah.
to kind of compare notes in a way. Yeah.
And I do want to just say, I mean, on such a fundamental level, just thank you, Richard, your work, Douglas's work, meeting you through Sam Harris and his Waking Up, app and the Making Sense podcast. This truly has been something that has been life-changing, that I didn't expect, but that literally every day I see the implications. And
so what was your first impression when you first did the pointing? I mean, what was your reaction?
I mean, my reaction with doing the pointing again, I think I laughed because it was so familiar, and I had been meditating and interested in this for probably, I don't know how many, at least a few years up to that point, and hearing about concepts like emptiness, hearing that this was timeless, right? And I remember you were actually reading Douglas's book to me on an audiobook, and I was at my university, and the moment it clicked when you were talking about, I don't remember what you said, but that timelessness was there. And then I looked in the mirror, in my rearview mirror, and the words that came out of my mouth were, "Oh shit." Like I got it. It was one of those light bulb moments of, oh, in that mirror, that is constantly changing, right? And any listener who has this experience with Zoom meeting or something, that you can look and say, who is that person? But then you do the pointing experiment and you point back here. And for me, that was one of those moments where, oh, this has been here for as long as I can remember in my entire life. And so this never changes. I didn't know what to make of it. I don't think. It was a recognition, and I knew that this was something new and interesting. And it just continues to surprise me. And I think one of the most valuable things is definitely in relationship, right? How just open and connecting this can be. But it continues to surprise me. And so I would say it was very surprising, was my first kind of reaction. But definitely one of the most important, I don't even know what to call it, let's say experiences and continual experiences of my life. So I've been looking forward to this for so long and talking with you, but I absolutely want you to know just how impactful your work and everything that you've done. And so, yeah, just thank you so much, Richard.
And the thing is that we understand each other. I know exactly what that's like. You look in the mirror and you suddenly wake up to the space you're looking out of, which in that respect is still and timeless. And how can you measure that? That changes everything. Yeah. Changes nothing. It's always been there. Changes everything.
Yes.
I know. But why do you think you continued with it then?
Because it was, number one, it was true. It was every time I looked, it wasn't something I had to, I would quote unquote forget. We can say a lot, but then when I would realize that I was very stressed, or when I was not the type of father I wanted to be to our 4 young kids, or, being able to then remind myself. And I mean, the pointing, I do this a lot. I did this yesterday, and the two-way pointing out and pointing in. These experiments are so quick and they're so valuable, but I feel I continued with it because I like the version of Brian who is aware of that.
Uh,
I feel like I'm living I'm living the type of life that I'm confident will have fewer and fewer regrets when I'm aware of this, right?
and do you
When I
think
can,
your
yeah.
children or your wife recognizes that in you? What where you're coming from?
And that's one of the most powerful things is talking about it. I found kind of gets in the way of it, but when I am living from that, just like you and I during this conversation, the reason I've been smiling so much is because I don't have to do anything. I'm just being that. And so, yes, I think they can sense that dad is with me. He's not elsewhere. There's no
Ah,
multitasking happening when I'm space for my children or when I'm just talking with Megan, my wife, and I'm not there. There's no me there. It is just her and her face and her words, and then I can recognize, oh, I'm involved in this too. Um, but yes, it's that unspoken connection and ever deepening. Yes.
it's so rich, isn't it, when you
Yes.
are being that with Megan or whoever? You are getting so much from it. Yeah,
And it's always here. It's always, I don't have to do anything. I just have to stop overlooking it. Right.
I know. That's just such a brilliant thing about it. Yeah.
Well, Richard, I mean, obviously there's so much more. It can seem endless, but just once again, thank you. And thank you for taking the time. And I would just encourage any listener who is interested to go to the website and to explore this more. Yeah, if you're interested. So Richard, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Pleasure.